This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Baruch haba, welcome everyone to a special edition of All Parsha on Parshas Va'eschanan, the Haturim on Parshas Va'eschanan. Well, it's Shabbos Nachamu, and the Sfas Emes writes the Nechama to Klal Yisrael is Nachamu b'Torah, and this week is Kabbalas HaTorah. So we have to have an extra dose of Torah, especially the Kazhnitzer Maggid said on Tisha B'Av we weren't able to learn, so we have to be mechazek, especially Tu B'Av, which the nights get longer, and the Gemara tells us that the Moisef Yosef, those who learn more, gain extra life. So this week we're going to share 15 offerings from the Holy Haturim on Parshas Va'eschanan. Number one, we know Moshe Rabbeinu said 515 tefillos. The Sifri also brings that Moshe sang Shira to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that his tefillah should be listened to. Where is this alluded to? Well, Shira, the word Shira, is also Gematria 515. We go to Perek Gimel, Pasuk Chav Daled, second Pasuk of the Chumash, of the Parsha. Adoi Shem Elokim Ata Hachiloisa. Hashem, God, you began to show your servant your greatness and your mighty hand. The Haturim points out that the word laharois appears 3 times in Tanakh. The Masoretic note indicates that there are 3 instances of the word laharois. We have laharois es avdecha. The other is in Esther, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Yud Aleph. Laharois ha'amim hasarim es yafya. And the third time is also in Esther. Asher nasan, asher nitan b'shushan, lahashmidam, nasan loy, laharois es Esther. So, Chazal darshan as follows: that Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu whatever is destined to happen to the Jewish people, how they will be successful at their time of tranquility, and all of the oppression they will suffer in the future. So, Laha'ata Hachilos, you've began Laharis Abdecha, to show your servant. What did you begin to show me? Number one, Laharis Ha'amim B'Hasarim Es Yafya, you've shown me the beauty and the success of the Jewish people at their time of success. And you also showed me Asher Nitan B'Shusham Lahashmidam Nasan Lo, you showed me the time of their oppression and their time of danger. Okay, we now look at a comment of the Baal Haturim on this pasuk, because the Medrash tells us that what Moshe Rabbeinu did in his tefillah, he fulfilled that which it says in Mishlei, Perek Yirches Pasuk Chav Gimel, Tachanunim Yedaber Rosh V'Ashir Ya'aneh Azois. Supplications the poor man speaks, and the wealthy man answers with audacity. Supplications the poor man speaks, and the rich man answers with chutzpah. This refers to Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. Now, says the Baal Haturim, Tachanunim Yedaber Rosh Ve'asher Yana Azois. Every other word in this pasuk, the Seifei Tevois spells out Moshe. Tachanunim ends in a mem, Yedaber. Rosh ends in a shim, Ve'asher. Yana ends in a hey, Seifei Tevois, Moshe. Indicating that Moshe is the subject of the pasuk, Tachanunim, supplication, Yedaber Rosh, and Hashem spoke back harshly to Moshe Rabbeinu. But the Baal Haturim points out that this pasuk begins and ends with the letter Taf. It begins Tachanunim, it ends Azos, to indicate that Moshe Rabbeinu was not Zoicha to enter Eretz Yisrael, which is 400 parsa by 400 parsa. Now, in between, says the Baal Haturim, the two, in between the letters of Moshe, namely, between the mem of Tachnunim and the shin of Rosh, you have 2 reishes. These 2 reishes also add up to 400, indicating that Moshe Rabbeinu was not Zoicha to go into Eretz Yisrael, which is 400 parsa by 400 parsa. Now, we continue on in Pasuk Chav Daled still, and the Baal Haturim says that this pasuk has 21 words. Hashem Elokim Ata Hachilois Laharois Es Avdecha Es God Lecha V'Yes Yadecha Hachazaka Asher Mikeil Bashamayim Uva'aretz Asher Ya'asecha Ma'asecha V'Chigvuroisecha. This pasuk has 21 words. Not only that, it also begins with the letter Aleph and ends with a Chaf. This is merames to that which David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Ach toiv li Yisrael. But there is good for the Jewish people. Ach toiv li Yisrael. Now, what is the significance of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah begins with an aleph, ends in a chaf, has 21 words corresponding to Ach Toiv Yisrael? By the way, the Baal HaTurim says it also corresponds to Ekya. And perhaps we could suggest as follows. Number one, the 3 weeks have 21 days. Ultimately, they will be transformed into days of Nechama and days of consolation and Yom Tov. Perhaps this tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu in the aftermath of Tisha B'Av, Moshe Rabbeinu was davening, Ach, the 21 days of the Bein HaMetzarim, Toiv Yisrael, should be transformed into goodness for Klal Yisrael. It's interesting because this is not the only allusion to 21 in Parshas Va'eschanan. If we go to Parak Daled, Pasuk Lamed Daled, the Baal HaTurim there as well indicates that there's a remes to 21, because that pasuk, which is one of the greatest psukim in the Chumash in terms of enunciating Hashem's love for us, of carrying one nation out of another to take us out of Mitzrayim with great wonders. Oy Hanisa Elokim. It begins with an aleph and it ends Hashem Elokeichem b'Mitzrayim le'einecha, and it ends in a chaf. Also being merames to Ekya, and which is the name that Hashem was niglat to Moshe Rabbeinu when he took them out of Mitzrayim. And he hit the umais va'ach oischa, and it's also meramis to ach toiv li Yisrael. So perhaps this is also a nechama for Klal Yisrael from the 21 days of Churban, in that even though our Beis HaMikdash was taken away from us, but our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who took us out of Mitzrayim, remained intact. But we could say as follows, another reason why the significance of ach toiv li Yisrael is merumaz in this week's Parsha. The Gemara in Bava Kama says there's one particular word that appeared in the Luchos Rishonos that did not appear in the Luchos Rishonos, that did appear in the Luchos Shnios, and that is the word toiv. Because in Luchos Rishonos Hashem said, honor your father and mother, laman yarichun yamecha. But in Luchos Shnios, in this week's Parsha, it says, ulaman yitavlach. And so it should be good for you. Ask the Gemara Bava Kama, why doesn't it say toiv in the Luchos Rishonos, and instead it only said toiv in the Luchos Shnios? In fact, there are 21 letters of the Aleph Beis that appear in Luchos Rishonos. There's the letter Taf does not appear in the Luchos Rishonos, and that's because Tes stands for toiv, and since the Luchos Rishonos were going to be broken, Hashem did not want toiv to be broken and taken away from the Jewish people. So the word toiv and the tes appear in Luchos Shnios. They do not appear in Luchos Rishonos. So we could say Moshe Rabbeinu is mispalel, and the Chassam Sofer explains, Ach, the fact that there are only 21 letters in the Luchos Rishonos and the letter tes doesn't appear, toiv li Yisrael. That's good for Klal Yisrael. This way the toiv is not broken. So Moshe Rabbeinu perhaps here is davening, Rebbeinu Shalom, I know you're going to give us a second set of luchos. Ach, toiv li Yisrael. We want to preserve the toiv for Klal Yisrael. 21 letters were broken, but you did not destroy the toiv, because the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to make sure toiv remained for Klal Yisrael. And that is why only in Luchos Shnios, which remained forever, does the tes and the word toiv appear. In fact, the Baal HaTurim comments on the Aseres HaDibros, which is a further offering of the Baal HaTurim on this week's Parsha. There are 17 words that appear in Luchos Shnios that do not appear in Luchos Rishonos, being merames, again, that the Luchos Shnios were toiv, the Luchos Rishonos did not have toiv. Okay, we go on to Parak Gimel, Pasuk Chafei, Ebera Na is 51. The Baal HaTurim says, and this is found in the Paneach Raza as well, that the Yarden was 50 amos wide. Moshe said, Ebrana, please just let me cross 51 amos in. I just want to take one step in Eretz Yisrael. Just allow me, please, to stand in one am of Eretz Yisrael. I'll cross the 50 amos of the Yarden. Ebrana will allow me to cross into the 51st amma. Now, offering number 7, Parak Gimel, Pasuk Chaf Hei. There are 40 words, says the Baal HaTurim, from Va'eschanan until the word V'halavanayin. This indicates that Moshe Rabbeinu said, remember for me the zechus that I spent 40 years on Har Sinai. Please, Ribbon Shem, remember that zechus for me so that I should be able to enter Eretz Yisrael. Now the Gemara in Brachos, in Daf Lamed Beis, says that from Moshe Rabbeinu we learn out that before a person prays and says Ebrana and makes a request, they should La'olam Yisader Adam Shivchai Shal Makom V'Achar Kach Yispala. First, a person should arrange the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then and only then he should daven. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu says, Gemara, praise Hashem Adoi Shem Lakim Ata Hachiloisa L'Haris Abdecha Esgadlecha V'Yasyadcha Hachazaka. Well, the Baal HaTurim takes this a little further. That Esgadlecha refers to Hakel Haggadah. Yadcha Hachazaka is Ata Gibar. Asher Mi Kel Bashamayim is Keneged Ata Kadosh. And then Ebrana. So first, Moshe said Esgadlecha, that refers to Avos, Hakel Hagadol. And then Gevurais, Yadcha HaChazaka, Ata Gibar. And then Kedusha, Asher Mi Kel Bashamayim Ba'aretz. And then he davened for his tzrachim. Now we go to Perek Daled, Pasuk Beis, where the Rebbe Shem gives Klal Yisrael the mitzvah: do not add on to the Torah, do not subtract. Amazingly, the Baal HaTurim says the Soifei Tevois of Viloi, Aleph, Sigru, Vav, that's 7 already. Mimenu, another 6, 13. Lishmar, Reish, 213. S ends in a Taf, another 400, 613. Loi Sigru Mimenu, do not detract from the Torah. Make sure the Torah remains 613. The Soifei Tevois of Viloi, Sigru, Mimenu, Lishmar, S is 613. Now the pasuk continues. The pasuk says, Asher Anoichi mitzava eschem, the Torah that I command you, and then it says immediately, juxtaposed, Einechem harayos, your eyes saw everything I did to Baal Pa'ar. The Baal HaTurim says there's significance between the connection, Asher Anoichi mitzava eschem, the giving of the Torah, and Einechem harayos, your eyes see, meaning, this is alluding to the concept of Sanhedrin Avav Amabeis. Ein ledayan elamash ein avrayos. A judge could only judge based on the way he sees it. Even if people explain it a different way, if he doesn't see it that way, ein ledayan elama she'einav rayos. Okay, we go on to Perek Daled, Pasuk Daled. V'atem hadveikim b'Hashem lekeichem chayim kolchem hayom re'ei limadati eschem. A connection between the day, hayom, and learning. Says the Baal HaTurim, this alludes to that which the Gemara Megillah teaches us. Shmaitza boit silusa kashemesh. Learning needs a certain clarity like the sun. So there's a connection between hayom and limadati eschem. Learning needs clarity. Now, Perek Daled, Pasuk Chav Daled. The Pasuk says, Ki adoi shem elokecha ish oichelahu keil kana. It says, Ki, God is a God of vengeance. And then it says, Ki soilid banim ubnei banim, that you will go into Eretz Yisrael and you will get old there and you will worship idols. Says the Baal HaTurim, the word Ki has a numerical value of 30. 30 years after the death of Moshe, Klal Yisrael worshipped Pesal Micha. This is alluded to in the word Ki, Gematria 30. And final offering, and by the Aseres HaDibros, which again we mentioned, has 17 words, Gematria Toiv, that the Dibros Rishonos do not have. It says, among the things you cannot covet, it says, Veloisis aveh beisrayach asadehu ve'avdoi v'amasoi shayroi v'achamoyroi v'choyol asher l'reyacha. One of the things you cannot covet is your friend's field. That is the one item not mentioned in Parshas Yisro. When it talks about being jealous and coveting, it does not mention the field. Everything else, the ox, the donkey, but Dafkin V'aschanan, it mentions the field, because in this Parsha, Klal Yisrael were primed to enter Eretz Yisrael, and because they were primed to enter Eretz Yisrael, the Sadehu was of a significance But in Yisrael, where they still had a while to enter Eretz Yisrael, it does not say Sadehu. Now, one last thought. Moshe Rabbeinu told Klal Yisrael, Hashem is going to tell you the Dibros, and Klal Yisrael, after hearing the first two, they couldn't take it anymore, and they said, Moshe Rabbeinu, Ve'at Tedaber, you speak to us. Ve'at Tedaber, the Baal Turim says, Parakeh Pasuk Chav Daled, is Gematria Shmoina Dibros. You tell us 8 of the Dibros, the other 2, Anoichi V'lo Yelecha, Mipi Hagvura Shemanam. Okay, wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos, and an amazing Shabbos Nachamu, Haba Aleinu L'Toiva, Bracha B'Hatzlacha, all the best.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.